Hello, my dears. How are you today? I hope you're fine and you're enjoying a quiet afternoon just like myself. You see, my garden is preparing to take a sleep. It feels the approach of autumn already. And all the plants seem to be slowly turning pale and dying down. There's also a lot of rain these days, much more than it used to. And you see, we're having a bit of a doubt whether to go outside or to stay indoors. And since I'm staying indoors, I decided to improve my pantry and organize it a little bit. And here I paint some labels for my things. It's just a useful thing to do, I guess, when there's nothing better to do and you can't really go outside. I believe life is not all about hurrying and having to do stuff, but mostly about taking time to do seemingly unimportant stuff, but stuff that gives you a lot of pleasure. And for me, drawing and painting is indeed very pleasurable. And of course, the funny thing about this year is the fact that everything seems to have been delayed in nature. I mean, we've had a lot of rain and cold, and that came late in the spring even. And of course, it wasn't the best for plants, and most of them seem to have suffered quite a great deal. And then summer came and it was really hot, and many of these plants hurried to bloom, catch up with the weather, and they bloomed to exhaustion, I suppose. And that's an interesting thing. So I've chosen to draw some of these beautiful flowers on my balcony to use them for my labels, you see. Kind of store them in memory, put them on paper so that I can remember them when I take the jars out in the cold of winter. So here I have some pasta, and it's kind of alphabet pasta that my son enjoys. And I wanted to put it in a jar and write on it what it was. And I wanted it to look simple, but in a little sophisticated tone, not just pure simple. So I find all these little things that I'm doing around the house quite enjoyable, and they're giving me such a calm, such a peace that I think it's all worth it. Though it might seem to some of you as a waste of time. Recently, I've been anxious again. Living in a country where I don't speak the language very well, and the new possibilities in front of me, new restrictions maybe coming from autumn, all that kind of put a toll on me. And besides, my son beginning school here, and I felt very anxious, so taking some time to paint some labels is quite a blessing, I would say. It really calms my nerves. For this particular label, I'm picking um, a muscat, I think it's called. It's one of the flowers on my balcony, and I'm trying to propagate it. Somebody told me that if you take a little bit of that and you put it in water and you add some growing hormone, it's going to sprout roots. I don't even have the growing hormone, so I'm trying just with water, see where it takes me. I want to have a few, stored over the winter. It's a kind of experiment I'm putting up. So, because they are very beautiful and they seem to bush up quite a bit and blossom throughout the summer, I've decided to, you know, um, draw them and paint them as well. I think it's quite a nice memory to have in the dead of winter. When everything seems to be kind of uniform and dull. At least to me, I don't like winter very much. I must admit, I don't like the cold and the lack of green. I'm a summer person.
I also don't suppose this painting of mine to be anything but good fun, playful. I don't expect it to be extremely beautiful. I don't have any great expectations from myself doing this. It's just pure fun. It's playtime, if you want. And I do not want necessarily the end result to be perfect or, you know, the most beautiful thing that I have ever painted. I do not set any high standards for myself doing this. It's just pure relaxation. It's my way of giving something to myself now and perhaps giving something to myself later when I pick up the jar and I see the drawing or the painting and I smile to myself. So it's all quite innocent, really. And I think nowadays many of us have such strict goals, and many of us try to prove ourselves and to prove to ourselves that we are the best and we can be the best, and trying to better ourselves at all costs, sometimes at the cost of our humanity. So I embrace my failures and I'm just having some fun. That's all. Of course, I'm not arguing that we should be lenient with ourselves on all occasions, but in some cases, or every now and again, we don't need to be perfect. So that's my thought these days. Allow yourself to make mistakes so that you can grow as a person, and allow yourself to be playful and not always hold yourself to account. Otherwise, you will miss all that joy in life. And I guess that's like missing the point of life after all. I guess a very important question that we all have to ask ourselves is, when did you have fun the last time? When did you really enjoy yourself? When something that you did really made you feel well or happy or, in a way fruitful to you as a person for your future development. If your expectation is to do everything right at all times, and you you kind of set yourself to such a high standard, then every time you do something that's less perfect, you might um, feel like you've defeated yourself, and that's not a very pleasant feeling to have after all. And from experience, you cannot keep up with perfection for too long. You have to learn to unwind every now and again, and it's all about choosing your right moment. Usually people who are used to you having a great performance at all times are not going to be very happy if you give up in the middle of the game, so to speak, because you have suddenly discovered that you need to be kind to yourself. So choose your moment and know yourself before you run into trouble. If you quit when you're having trouble, well, that's not going to be very yielding for your personal development, I think. This year I had high hopes for some of my crops, including pumpkin and melon, but the weather was against me, and so was the soil, and I learned many important things. So next year I'm going to be well prepared for any eventuality. Even so, I do not think I'm going to, have extraordinary crops. I'm not going to be the queen of perfect balcony gardens on YouTube, but I will learn a great deal about plants, about growing stuff that works in my region, and I'll have a lot of fun. And I guess that's the most important part. And you see, I don't set extreme goals for myself, and I might happen to get at some point to a place of great victory in terms of how well my plants grow on the balcony and so on. But that will be mostly due to experience and perhaps some circumstances. I do not want to fake anything when it comes to this channel and what I'm doing here. So this might turn counterproductive because people are accustomed to perfection, on other channels, and this idealized view of what should and should not work. But, I do myself. So here I am. I finished my label, and now I'm putting my alphabet pasta into a new jar, which saves me a jar for tea. And this year I collected a lot of stuff on the pastures here, and I like this combined tea. I don't like tea with only one plant. The tea I'm talking about, which I collected myself, is actually medicinal. So this one has antibacterial properties and anti-inflammatory. I promise to make a video about tea on another occasion. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful time.